We're starting with some very, very serious news this morning coming out of Israel. Israel's Security Cabinet has approved a plan to take control of the most populated part of Gaza, Gaza City. Previously, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he intended to take over all of Gaza. This was him speaking to Fox News yesterday.
Are you saying today that you will take control of the entire 26-mile Gaza Strip, as it was 20 years ago to this month in 2005?
Well, we don't want to keep it. We want to have a security perimeter. We don't want to govern it. We don't want to be there as a governing body. We want to hand it over to Arab forces that will govern it properly without threatening us and giving Gazans a good life. That's not possible with Hamas.
Now, the approved plan focuses specifically on Gaza City and the camps in the centre of the Strip. It's thought 1 million Palestinians live here, and it's also where apparently the hostages are being held. The UN warns this escalation could have catastrophic consequences, and it's facing widespread opposition in Israel itself. The families of the hostages are amongst those who have been protesting outside Netanyahu's office. This morning, Prime Minister Keir Starmer said Israel's decision is wrong, and he's urging the government to reconsider immediately. He says a diplomatic solution is possible, but both parties must step away from the path of destruction. You saw the amount of opposition there in Israel. Esther, do you agree with Keir Starmer?
Well, I think it's ironic that Keir Starmer is saying this, because I think his plan, and alongside the Canadians and the French's plan to approve a Palestinian state without any concessions from Hamas, is probably what's led to this, because it's incentivized them more to actually not sue for peace. And it's actually held up the last two negotiations that Hamas have been involved in with the US and Egypt. I don't agree with this plan, mainly because an occupation that serves no military aims is actually not a good thing for Israel, unfortunately. You're going to be occupying a territory with people who have been basically bombarded for the last almost 2
on that
years,
point, in terms
of the occupying force.
Right, on that point about it serving no military aim, many people, many international lawyers take the view that if you invade a country, or it's not a country yet, or a territory with no military aim, that in of itself is a war crime.
Well, yes, there is that also uncomfortable truth. But I mean, if you're taking the average Israeli who's thinking, okay, this strip of land is a security threat to me, as we've seen since October 7th, you have to give them a good reason to buy into having basically this permanent military force there, which is also uncomfortable for the IDF soldiers, by the way. Imagine being in a territory surrounded by people who really can't stand your guts. What exactly are we trying to get out of this? They're not saying they're occupying it to bring the hostages back home. They're just going to occupy it, period.
Well, Esther uses the word uncomfortable truth, and she's talking about the kind of politics of it all and, you know, what will happen in the endgame. But the tragedy of the word uncomfortable truth is that thousands more people, and the people who are still there, are not the Hamas leadership hauled up in five-star hotels in Qatar, but women and children, and usually the poorest and most vulnerable in Gaza City, who are most likely to be affected, right?
Yeah, and I think we've seen since the blockade, we've seen one hostage released, which was essentially a bit of a swap anyway with an Israeli-American hostage. What Netanyahu has essentially done with regards to his military aims has failed, and starved thousands of people. The problem with a famine as well is a man-made famine. It's very hard to stop a famine once you've started it. And it speaks, essentially, for want of a better term, this is the death rattle of a very desperate man who is losing. He is putting his sort of far-right coalition and government ahead of doing the right thing.
What do you make of the opposition that's increasingly vocal, increasingly present, though it's been there throughout in Israel itself? And that doesn't just come from Israeli citizens, but also the military leadership, as well as heads of intelligence, previous prime ministers saying, look, this isn't going to work, it needs to stop. And it's destroying not just the goodwill towards Israel, but the fundamental soul of the country. These are the points not made by me, but by these people who are at the epicenter of Israeli politics life and have the vested interest in the state enduring and, above all else, doing what it can to succeed.
Yeah, and the economic cost, which no one wants to speak to as well. This is the significant economic cost of doing this. Unfortunately, Netanyahu has a lifeline in the far-right members of his coalition that are basically propping up his premiership, and that's the issue here. There are enough people supporting him to tip the balance, and unfortunately, you're hearing many allies of Israel saying, enough is enough, you need to stop this.
Well, on that precise note, many people say, and it's probably right, the only people that could stop this is Donald Trump. And 3 days ago, Trump was asked if he would fully support Israel fully occupying Gaza. Just have a listen to what he said.
Well, I don't know what the suggestion is. I know that we are there now trying to get people fed. As you know, $60 million was given by the United States fairly recently to supply food, and a lot of food, frankly, for the people of Gaza that are obviously not doing too well with the food. So that's what I'm focused on. As far as the rest of it, I really can't say. That's going to be pretty much up to Israel. Yeah, please.
Matthew, just to be clear that the plan is what Netanyahu is suggesting. We don't want to govern it. We want to take it over, get rid of Hamas, and then give it back. Now, the question
Have
is...
anarchy in between. I mean, what is it?
That clip's actually infuriating. This is a dereliction of duty, actually, from the President of the United States.
What should he be doing?
It would take one phone call for Israel to change tack. Israel have shown they need America. When you look at the recent missile strikes with Iran, when they got themselves into a tight spot and needed Donald Trump to come to their aid, he's got enough credit in the bank. And to sort of speak as some sort of bystander and go, yeah, it looks really... When he was with Keir Starmer the other week, yeah, it looks really bad. You can't fake that. What do? We need to try and get food in. Like, you have the power. You're one of the most powerful men in the world.
Now, one of the issues here, you brought it up, Esther, is that there is a sticking point, which is that Hamas cannot stay in place as the head of government of Palestinians in that territory. Obviously, in the West Bank, where other horrors are taking place, that's run by Fatah, different branch, if you like, of Palestinian political life. Now, this is one of the difficulties. Unless Hamas decide to walk away, one of the issues is that it looks like Netanyahu's government will continue into Gaza City.
Well, I mean, this goes back to October 8th, which is basically what was going to be the plan for Israel in the wake of this horrific attack, which is what does success look like? And it's basically on a scale. You have to decide, what does destroying Hamas look like? They've certainly destroyed all of their military capabilities and then posing any real significant threat to
And the
Israel.
head of Shin Bet, which is the secret organisation, if you like, their version of MI6, but also...
Well, they've decapitated most of their leadership. So at some point, you just have to say, these are religious fundamentalists and fanatics. And in terms of destroying Hamas, this is as good as it gets. There are 2 million people who have been living in misery for almost 2 years. And at some point, the goals that they have is going to do more damage to Israel in the long run than any sort of good. And that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, and unless you know what the long game is or what you actually want to put in place, other than some ephemeral idea of some Arab government, then we are looking at more destruction, more human life. And whatever your view, wherever you're from, we just pray for some sort of peace in that part of the world and, frankly, for it to stop.